Hello, my name is Beck and welcome to an exciting book haul. I have 15 books to share with you, so without further ado, let's jump into them. The first one I have already read, but I haven't read it recently. I read it more than a year ago. Anyway, that's kind of irrelevant. You're here for the book haul. It is Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. I love these editions. They're the parchment papery feel ones with the foiling on them that sparkles. I love a good sparkle on a book cover. This is a book that is a standalone, but it's set after the Blade Itself series. So after the first trilogy, the first Law, there are a series of standalones that follow it. I know, quite confusing. I think this is the fourth book in that series, and inside it does say the first Law trilogy, and then there's Best Served Cold and the Heroes, and then there's Red Country. So not immediately after the trilogy, but you get the gist. It's a standalone set in the same world. It does further the events of what has already happened. So Joe Abercrombie himself said that you can pick these adult fantasies up whenever you want to, and you can just dive into their world. But for me, I personally read from the beginning, so I had all of the context and I could pick up all the cool tidbits going on. And so I've really enjoyed this series, and I haven't actually owned it because I've listened to all the audiobooks because they are incredible. So I've wanted to start accumulating the books physically. So my friend gifted this to me, so thank you very much. Now this is going to go on my shelf and I'm very excited. Next up are two books that I have seen a booktuber in the fantasy science fiction space read and really enjoy, and I'm hoping that I enjoy these like she did, because generally our tastes cross over, not always, but I'll find out because now I have these physically. The first one is Ninth Reign, and then the second one is Fireborn, and I'm hoping that Elliot Brooks steers me right because I got these because of her recommendation and because she raves about them. Really, I don't know what either of these tend to follow. I know this is adult and I know this is young adult. I've heard this is potentially queer, I'm not sure. So I'm going in really vague here, but that is kind of what I'm trying to embrace because I don't want to know too much about either of these before I pick them up. But all the books that I talk about here, if you want any more info, I'll link them in a Goodreads list in my description so you can go and peruse that if you like. I didn't think that people would like that, but I've had requests for that in the past, so it's going to be a thing that I keep trying to carry forward, but I don't like clicking on the description and then seeing all the books in somebody's video because I see it as like spoilers for the video. Either way, you've got the option now if you wanted to do that. So those two books are going to be down there if you want to go and have a look any further, but two fantasies that I'm really excited for, and I'm very excited for everything on this list, so I'm sorry if I'm going to keep repeating myself. After that, I have a book that has been sitting on my shelf for a little while now, and somebody has noticed it, so props to you, but it's Way of the Argosy by Sebastian de Castell, and this is a book that follows Faru Parfax. I don't know if I'm saying her name right because I didn't listen to the audios for these, but she is a mentor slash side character in this Spellslinger series, and this is a spin-off following her directly. I don't actually know if it's set after the Spellslinger books or before them, but I think this is Spellslinger book 7, so it deviates and it tells her story. So I think you need the context of all the Spellslinger series in order to read this, but again, Goodreads, check that out. It'll probably tell you whether it's number 7 or number 1. So you can make your own choices there. But Faru is amazing. This is a series I love. I've banged on about it before, so I'm not going to stick here too long, but young adult fantasy, underdog main character, found family elements, amazing. And now I'm going into even more fantasy that I have accumulated, and I have mentioned this before. I got this as a gift as well, and this is The Witcher book 3, technically book 1 of the novels. The first 2 in this series are novella collections, and I've read those. So now I'm getting interested in Geralt's story, who is the Witcher, who's basically an immortal, has supernatural powers, but is half human. So he gets approached by people all the time, and they say, can you get this monster out of our town, where actually humans are ostracizing this monster, and often humans are the real monsters. There's a whole discussion about that going through these books, and what I've seen so far, especially of the show as well, I have enjoyed. I haven't loved. I liked the first collection more than the second, so this is going to be the clincher for me. If I really enjoy this one, I'm obviously going to continue the series. If this only gets a 3 stars from me, I'm probably not going to continue. So crossing your fingers that I actually really like this, because I would really ideally like to continue, because the setup for this series is one that I really enjoy. It's kind of that lone warrior who is closed off from everybody kind of style, and I like other characters coming in to, I guess, mellow that character and let them show their softer side and their heart, and I like the magic in the world in this so far, and I'm interested to learn more. I accidentally have a lot of red books on this list. I don't usually pick up red books. Anyway, I'm going to go sideways into a contemporary now, and that is Perfect on Paper. Not quite red, but almost. It's a nice segue. This is a young adult contemporary book. It's about a bisexual girl who is at high school. She runs this secret locker number 89, and everyone submits their relationship advice to it, and she has to give them advice based on their letters, and she does it all anonymously. So nobody obviously knows who she is and that she's the one giving advice. A while ago, she gave her best friend Brooke some negative advice, and Brooke had a falling out with somebody because of that. And so this main character has a huge crush on Brooke, but she's also been blackmailed by this guy who caught her at the locker getting the letters out after school hours, and now he's blackmailing her and saying, hey, I want to get back with my ex-girlfriend, you are the best one to help me. So she's got this situation where she is compromised if locker 89 gets out because Brooke will hate her, and she also doesn't really like this guy who is blackmailing her to help him out either. So add all of that in with the high school drama. I really enjoyed this, obviously. I liked Only Mostly Devastated by her more than this one, but this still got a 4.5 out of me, so I really enjoyed this. I'm really happy that I pre-ordered it because it showed up super early, and I am super happy that I have finished it because I didn't read a lot in March, but I managed to clock this one. Up next are 3 books that Dresden fans are going to enjoy. 3 books in the Dresden Files series. So we've got Turncoat, Changes, and Ghost Story, and these are 10, 11, and 12, or 12, 13, 14. Either way, it's more than 10. I know Small Favor is book 10, so maybe these are 11, 12, 13. I'm honestly not sure at this point. Again, I'll link them down below so you can go and check them out. I have a whole Dresden playlist and I love reviewing these as I read them. So no doubt reviews of these books will be up on my channel eventually because I am continuing the series, and that is why I bought all of these. So I am super excited to get further into this urban fantasy wizard detective consultant story. If you haven't heard of it before, I'm honestly going to be surprised because this is a very popular series and it follows Harry Dresden. Obviously, he's a consultant to the police. He goes to supernatural murders and he helps them solve these crimes, but more often than not the books have a central theme. The characters are all introduced at the start of the book to be kind of like caricatures that you would expect in an urban fantasy series, so it eases you in by being familiar, and then after that it lets you have space to expand on these characters, and that is definitely what Jim Butcher has done. All of the character bonds, the humour, the stories, the breakneck speed, and how it keeps surprising me is why I keep going back to these, and I'm so happy that I'm going to continue reading them. I read them after my partner is finished with a book, and he goes in and out of phases of reading, whereas I read all year round. So when he picked up this book recently, finished it and loved it, I was like, I'm so excited because now I get to listen to this next, and it was on my April TBR, so check that video out if you haven't already. But long story short, more Dresden, super chuffed, will read soon. And then we have a hardcover, which I don't often buy, but I pre-ordered this a long time ago, and this is the last book in the Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers. This is The Galaxy and the Ground Within. It is a signed copy and it has gorgeous end papers in it that I'm just going to show off right now, and I got this from Waterstones in a timely fashion, which I'm surprised about given that they're in the United Kingdom and I'm in Australia, not exactly close, so pretty impressed that this got here as quickly as it did. I enjoyed this story a lot, but this wasn't my favourite in the Wayfarers book. If you weren't aware, the Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers has a more human side to its sci-fi, so it's very character driven, it's very character based. The scenarios in it allow you to contemplate humanity and existence in a grander scale while also relating it specifically to the characters that we encounter, and it has a lot of heart, and it's also very queer positive, which is why I keep going back to it because it's just very wholesome. And so if you want a sci-fi that's not about grand scale battle or anything and it's very focused on its characters at the time, I really recommend these because they're very quiet and beautiful, and that is obviously why I pre-ordered this, and it's why I've enjoyed the others in the series so far. It is one of my favourite sci-fi series and I'm really excited to reread it. All of them link in together, so don't start with this one, start with The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I promise you will enjoy it. Pivoting into more sci-fi, I have Calibans Wall, which is the second book in the Expanse series. I read the first book, I think, in January. It's in my January wrap-up, but I also have a spoiler-free review for it, which I will link down below for your viewing pleasure. I'm really excited to get further into this series. It is a grand-scale sci-fi series, so kind of the opposite of what Becky Chambers does. It does have a cast of characters though, and they have a crew dynamic, so it is found family based still, like Becky Chambers' work, but it deviates more into action and grander scale stuff rather than keeping it insular with the people that we encounter. So while there are characters that you can get behind, that you can root for and relate to, there is an outgoing plot as well that pushes everything forward, which I really enjoyed. It was quite action-based and it set up for humor as well in the story, and it linked a couple of story threads through it. So I don't know what the second book follows. I don't really want to know, and I have not read the back yet because I was nervous that it might give things away by accident, and I am just generally excited to get through this and not know anything about it, to be honest. We are down to the last 4 books in this book haul, and one of them is Wonderland by Juno Dawson. This is a contemporary again, and it's set in modern day high school where we follow a girl named Alice. She's a trans girl, and so Juno Dawson is also trans. This is a trans own voices book, and it's obviously based on Alice in Wonderland given the title and the cover. And Alice is our main character. She's bullied a lot at school. She has this kind of fling with a girl named Bunny, and then Bunny ends up going missing, and people don't know if she's been murdered or if she's gone missing, because usually she tends to go awry for a couple of days and then reappear, but she hasn't reappeared, and Alice knows that she's the last one who saw Bunny. So she's like, what's going on? Tries to track down Bunny. At the same time, there is this party that's very exclusive and very drug-induced, and Bunny gets an invite, but Alice goes as Bunny, and so a lot of the story unravels from that point on. It was a romp in terms of Juno Dawson's writing because it just had its thumb on the pulse of social justice and politics and discussion and queerness, which I really enjoyed. But aside from Juno Dawson's writing style, not really usually the thing I would pick up. So I didn't love this, and I got it knowing that I probably wouldn't give it a 4 stars, but I did give it like a 3 or a 3.5, I think. And so it is really worthwhile if you like Juno Dawson and you want to try out her writing. This is great, and it also linked in her other book, Clean, which I adored. So I liked those aspects. I love the writing style. Juno Dawson tends to write really great prose, and so I would encourage you to give her a go. Maybe not with this one, but if your tastes vary from mine, you're probably going to like this. I just don't usually like retellings, so I don't really know why I bought this if I don't like retellings and I knew I wouldn't love Alice in Wonderland. Either way, I gave it a shot. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's pretty short, and it was just a book towards my reading goal, to be honest. So glad I did that, glad I finished it, glad I read it. Moving on. Now we're down to 3, and this third last one is one that I'm really excited for because it is by somebody who is an Australian author. This is not her first book by far, but it's the first book from her that has been on my radar, and it's The Surprising Power of a Good Dumpling. And this has a character in it who is of Asian origin. I'm not exactly sure which, so if I can get the specification, I will let you know. But her name is Anna Chiu. I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I haven't looked anything up before this video. And it says she has her hands full looking after her siblings and helping out at her dad's restaurant, all while her mum stays in bed. So this talks about Asian culture, family, and mental health and depression. And I think that is a brilliant look at a lens, or through a lens rather, that I don't get to see honestly a lot of. A lot of the contemporary books that I read are from a white author. So it's going to be amazing to read something outside my wheelhouse in general. And I've seen friends give this really high ratings, so I'm really keen to get into this, but I know that because it includes depression and family, that it's potentially going to tackle some tougher topics that are potentially hard-hitting. And so because it's a hard-hitting contemporary rather than necessarily like a fluffy contemporary like Perfect on Paper, I haven't prioritized it, but I do intend to read it this year, so keep an eye out. I will be talking about this on my channel at some point in the future, but if you have read this, please let me know because I really would be interested in your rating. I'm assuming going into this that it's going to either be at least a 4 stars, if not a 5, and one of my new favorites this year, which is pretty big praise given that I don't tend to read a lot of contemporary, but I think this is going to deserve that spot. We're down to the second last one, and that is an advanced reading copy that I got from Hachette, so thank you very much for sending it to me, Hachette. This is The 22 Murders of Madison May, and this is by, I got his name wrong in my TBR, his name is Max Barry, not Max Brooks. Max Brooks wrote What Was He? He did not write this. This comes out in July, so this is a proof copy that I got quite early because I was talking to the publisher on Twitter, so I was very lucky to get this early. It is a psychological thriller mixed with a sci-fi, so it's about a serial killer who kills people through different times, I think, and across parallel universes. The back says across different times. Duh. Through parallel universes is the better phrase. Thanks for the blurb. It's about a mind-bending speculative psychological suspense about a serial killer who stalks his victims across parallel universes and the woman who is determined to stop him even if it upends her own reality, which just sounds breakneck incredible and very topsy-turvy and windy, and I love that. I don't usually pick up psychological thriller, but I do like it if it's from a genre that is mixed. So the fact that this is mixed with thriller and sci-fi, I think I'm going to enjoy this. I really enjoyed his other book, Lexicon, and that was about literally weaponizing language and telekinesis in one so that you could fight people, which is pretty cool. And so I enjoyed that, but I didn't love the ending of it. So I'm hoping that with the other books he's written, but I haven't read them yet, I'm hoping with those, plus his experience writing this, that he's tightened his endings, because I really want to love this, and I would have given Lexicon a 5 stars if not for the ending I read at the time. So I'm very chuffed to read this. It comes out, it just says July 2021. It doesn't say a date, and this is on my April TBR in case I get really busy so I can push it out to May and June. But I do intend to have a review up of this when I finish it, upon finishing it, when I eventually finish it. There's a lot of books in this book haul that I need to finish, so no pressure. The last book in this book haul, however, I do not need to finish because 1, I've read it already, and 2, it's not in English, and that is Mistborn. My friend was amazing. He lives in Japan and he sent this to me. This is the first volume of Mistborn in the Japanese edition, which is really cool. I was looking for it when I traveled Japan last year and the year before, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And so because he lives there, he was able to scrounge it up for me and he sent it to me for Christmas. So even though I'm not ever going to read it because I can't read Japanese, this is still really cool to have. And I love that Vin is drawn on the front cover and she looks like anime. Honestly, every cover should look like anime because it's so cool. But if you haven't read Mistborn yet, it's about a girl named Vin. She's a street urchin. She's living with this crew on her own essentially, and they're not really sticking up for her. In this world also there are mistings and mistborns, and so what they do is they consume a different type of metal and then they can burn it in their stomach to get magical abilities. And Vin is potentially one of these mistings or mistborn, and she is picked up by a guy named Kelsier who is running a heist at the time and happens across her path, and so he takes her under his wing. She becomes part of this rebellion to kill the Lord Ruler, because a long time ago the Lord Ruler decided to take over everybody. It's like with the Lord of the Rings if Sauron destroyed Frodo and then took over the world afterwards, and this is what's left. The bad guy won basically, and the bad guy was the Lord Ruler, and so now we've got the good guys trying to overthrow him and regain a normalcy to the world rather than a power imbalance. So that is essentially what Mistborn follows, at least the first book, The Final Empire, which you can read as a standalone if you really want to. So it's a really good entry point to Brandon Sanderson. I love this edition. I'm so excited about all the stuff that I've got, but that is the end of this book haul. Do let me know if you have read anything on here. Obviously, please don't spoil me because most of these I haven't read yet, but I would be interested in your ratings. Thank you so much for watching this video. Come chat to me down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.